Well, welcome everybody to the Austin Peay's fall board meeting. We're glad to have everybody here, and it looks like almost an overflow crowd, so thank you for being here. And with that, Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Atkins.
Here.
Trustee Canada.
Here.
Trustee Carroll.
Here.
Trustee Jenkins.
Here.
Trustee Luck. Trustee Malone.
Here.
Trustee May.
Here.
Trustee Mueller.
Here.
Trustee O'Malley.
Here.
Trustee Rayburn.
So we have a quorum, thank you. Please note that there are items on your agenda that need to be adopted. I move for the adoption of the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Jenkins. The agenda is adopted. I guess I should say all in favor, say aye first.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it is adopted officially. The minutes of the June 8, 2018 board meeting were circulated in advance of the meeting. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Do we have a motion to approve then?
So move.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Minutes are approved. At this time, I'd like to recognize President White, who will introduce the first of a couple of special guests that we have today.
Each board meeting, we try to have a campus spotlight to show you how the campus works, let you be more familiar with each division and unit in the university. And then a couple of times a year, we invite people external to the university, but important to how we do business, to present to you. And I'm really delighted today to invite Executive Director Mike Krause to the dais here. He is the Executive Director of the Tennessee Higher Education Commission, and he really has a heart for degree completion. He understands not only the needs of our workforce to have an educated citizenry, but he understands what it's like to go to school when you're in the military. He is an Austin Peay graduate. He is a veteran of the United States Army, was at Fort Campbell, and he has a really unique perspective on what it's like to be a student finishing a degree. And then he has been involved in higher education over the last few years. He was one of the architects of the Governor's Drive to 55 initiative and was very involved in designing the Focus Act, and then has been leading THAC for the last couple of years. And so we're delighted to have you, Mr. Krause.
Well, thank you, Dr. White, certainly, and to Chairman O'Malley for the chance to check in. We are, as our agency, and I'll introduce you to some of our team members, we're kind of making the rounds right now for two reasons. One, the Focus Act is now about 2 years old. You all have been seated as board members for 18 months. We killed you with information at the very front end, and now a lot of that I know has crystallized as you've gotten to see it play out. We are facing as a state, I think, a bit of an inflection point on higher education, and I'm going to show you some of the progress we've made. But we've also got to double down on that progress. And I think the risk during any time of transition, which is not just about the governor's office, there are 32 members of the General Assembly who will not be returning, which is a historic number. Anytime transitions like that happen, I think we've got to, as higher education as a sector, double down on the message of we're not going to back up in Tennessee. And I'll say, I think we have a cautionary tale about 10 miles from here of what happens when a state backs down in higher education. Kentucky's higher education situation right now is very troubling, and I watch it as a cautionary tale because a few years ago, Kentucky was leading the nation. I would say we're leading the nation now, and I'll have some data to share with you that kind of makes that point. Points of personal privilege would just be one of the fun parts of this job is I get to see every campus and am regularly on all of the campuses. There's something special going on at Austin Peay right now, and I'm not just saying that because I'm an alum. I look at what happened this summer. So if you're a president, here are a couple phone calls you don't want to get in quick succession. Hey, my executive vice president's leaving, and my athletic director's leaving. And to have watched Dr. White and the cabinet actually turn that into a huge positive. And you look at the team that's now been assembled, and I think that's pretty remarkable. I think the addition certainly of General Bailey and General Brower as an institution where APSU often stands for All Prior Service University, we've really brought that to be the truth now, General. And I think it gives a unique capability to the Austin Peay story to now have that leadership cabinet together. And so Dr. White, I hope, gets a lot of credit for steering through a lot of uncertainty that happened all at once. Really what I wanted to do is just check in and share with you where we are. When we did the first board orientation, we walked you through Tennessee's progress, and I really just want to revisit where we stand currently. A couple of points just to remind you where we started as a state. In 2013, we did an assessment of where we stood in relation to the other 49 states in terms of degree attainment, and you can see it was not good at all. I think the thing that troubled us the most about this data is twofold. One, as many of you know, being business leaders, the ability to build a talent pipeline now really is about the ability to attract a trained workforce. And when you see this data, I don't see this data through a higher education prism primarily. I actually see that through a workforce prism. And when we think about the ability to bring an LG to Clarksville, that is about this data now. And we're learning a lot. When we look at who we're competing with, we're actually not competing with 49 states. We're competing with about 4. And the reality is we're competing with a few zip codes within those 4 states. And it is a dogfight every day between ourselves and those other 4 states who you'll see I'm conspicuously not naming. One of the things we're learning is the site selectors that come, and this was certainly the case with the LG deal, you don't even get the first meeting unless you break through certain workforce statistics. So when we saw this data in 2013, it was very concerning. And that led to us putting a stake in the ground, which I'm sure the governor will share with you in a moment, just to say we're going to be something different in Tennessee. That previous data is not acceptable. The point I actually failed to make that I want to revisit is this data, when overlaid with things like incarceration, is almost a perfect 1-for-1 match. So if you're in the bottom 10 of these statistics, you actually end up being in the top 10 for things you don't want to be in the top 10 on, like public health issues and incarceration. So we put a stake in the ground and said by 2025, we need 55% of Tennesseans to have a college degree. I view implementing that attainment goal really has had 3 prongs. And both of the prongs on the front end have had maybe more connection with Austin Peay than they have at the other universities, because Austin Peay does grant associate degrees. And that was around the Tennessee Promise Initiative, focused on bringing students in straight out of high school to get an associate degree at state cost. Or now we're in the midst of implementing the Tennessee Reconnect Initiative, which really makes us the only state in the nation where any Tennessean can go to college, a community college, technical college, or an associate degree at a university, tuition free. The update on Reconnect I'll offer is that we had hoped for 8,000 students. We've had 32,000, so that's more. And we're thinking through how to make sure those students are welcomed once they get on campus. But I'll tell you, when I talk to my regional peers, none of them are struggling with how are we going to help all these students. The reality is, given the current state of the economy, most of them are struggling with how is our enrollment? Well, how are we going to pay our bills right now because we've had such a drop in enrollment? It's not the case in Tennessee, and as I'm sure you've either heard in committee or will hear today, it's not the case at Austin Peay either. So revisiting our goals, we've got success. More Tennessee students are going to college. That uptick in the first year, that was the first year of Tennessee Promise, we've now reached 64%. We've essentially found a new normal. That helped us leapfrog about 10 other states, a couple of whom we needed to leapfrog. And I think my biggest concern was, once we got out of the first year of Tennessee Promise, would this drop again, right? When you lost the buzz of a new initiative. It did not happen. Actually, we've continued to go up. This number is frustratingly hard to move. And something I'd point out is when the Hope Lottery Scholarship was implemented in 2004, this number actually went down, which was very disappointing at the time. We weren't quite sure why that happened. I think what we've learned was what Tennessee Promise brought to the table was just a message that had more clarity. It was, you can go to college. It wasn't, hey, if you fill out the FAFSA, you might get enough money to go to college. It was really a different way to approach students, and I think the results speak for themselves. This is a point that's very important that I've been making with the presidents, and Dr. White will tell you to some extent ad nauseum, and I'm now making with the boards. We in higher education often operate inertially, meaning the last sentiment we had is kind of the one we have until something else changes it. In 2009-10, we should be very clear-eyed. The state significantly reduced funding to higher education. I'd also say, in the state's defense, we significantly reduced funding to everybody because we are in the middle of the Great Recession. But higher education took a significant hit. I realized about a year ago we were all still talking about that, and it was 2017. And so that caused us to do an analysis of 7 years later, where are we? The state has rebounded. And if you look at the curve of state funding, we're the 13th highest funded state in the nation now. And I make that point to the board for a couple reasons. One, so you all know, THEC, one of our main jobs is to be higher education's budget advocate. And I view this as a success metric for our agency. Our job is to represent higher education to the governor and the General Assembly in search of funding. And we have found the funding. A lot of that's because the unified set of presidents we have, though. And I think Dr. White can vouch, if people were worried when we implemented the Focus Act that somehow now Tennessee Tech wasn't going to talk to Austin Peay and Austin Peay wasn't going to talk to Memphis, that's not happening. Those 6 presidents sit at a collegial table with me when we all make a budget ask that's resulted in this. So my first point would just be to make to you all, this is significant progress, and I hope we've left behind the last vestiges of, oh, the state's cutting funding. They're not. The state's dramatically investing in higher ed, and other surrounding states are not. They are doing the opposite, and you can see that represented here. The second point I would make is during this time of transition, especially in the General Assembly, I think it is more important than ever for this board, the other 5 boards, and all of the presidents to be united that we cannot back up from this. Reaching that statistic I just showed you is linked to this. And there were a couple years where we asked higher education to do more with less. That's not the case. Now we're asking higher education to do more with more. I hope that we continue, but that advocacy piece, everybody expects THEC to advocate for higher education funding. It's literally our job. If Billy Atkins or Michael O'Malley is advocating for higher education funding, I think that absolutely changes the conversation. If Dr. May, if you're talking to your Memphis area legislators, if you're talking to Senator Norris, for instance, and you're saying, I'm on the Austin Peay board, and I'm telling you, this investment is helping us serve students, I think we really have a shot at continuing this momentum. I'm going to brag on Austin Peay now. There are parts of this presentation I can give at all the universities. This one is special. It really represents a vision that Dr. White will tell you in some ways predates her. I will tell you it's a vision that when Dr. White showed up here, she poured jet fuel all over it and said, we're going to double down on this. And that is the notion that Austin Peay does not measure their success on enrollment. We measure our success on student success. And we spliced out your funding numbers for the last 5 years to tell you a story of what's happened. A couple things. In 2011, we would have essentially funded this institution on how many students were sitting in the seat on the 14th day. As you all know from an input-output model, that meant all the institutions were really good at having students sitting in seats on the 14th day, because that's what the state was paying attention to. When we changed the model to be focused on outcomes, what we hoped would happen is exactly the curve you see in front of you. That Austin Peay, and there are other institutions, though I will tell you, Austin Peay has been the most dramatic growth in the funding formula. That there would be institutions that took that outcomes-based funding formula and used it as a North Star. The best example I can think of here, and some of you may remember when Austin Peay held a completion academy and the custodial staff was invited and the police department was invited, because everybody on the campus has a piece of completion. And this is the result. So Austin Peay's state funding has gone up 28% in the last 5 years. And that's through the factors you could control. That's through the students reaching 24, 36, 48 hours, ultimately graduating. It's through your success with low-income students, which we'll talk about in a moment. It's through your success with adult students. That empirical information tells a more powerful story, really, than any speech. The numbers don't lie. And that is that Austin Peay has done something very dramatic with student success. The next thing we wanted to do, other than make a very confusing chart, was pull out every single component of the formula and then analyze which one has really driven Austin Peay's success. And as you'll see, this one wasn't a hard analysis. So if you look at all of those gateways I just mentioned, 24, 30, 72, 90, your production of master's degrees, some research weighting, your 6-year graduation rate, there's not a close second. Your growth has come from bachelor and associate degrees. you have not just grown your enrollment, which you have, you've grown the translation of enrollment into a bachelor or associate degree. And I'm sure Dr. White and Mitch and Dr. Gandy can walk you through everything that number represents, but it's seismic to have said we are going to increase at a base level $4 million worth of associate and bachelor's degrees in about 4 or 5 years. I've tried to think of the right analog for those in the room that are business leaders, and I really can't, because this is pretty unprecedented. I'll tell you, UTC is at your heels. UTC is right behind you. They're doing a great job. They're doing particularly a great job in closing equity gaps among students, but Austin P is as well, and I'll show you that data now. If you extract the 6 universities and just look at their grad rates, and we did take a longer tail on this analysis. So that is actually, if you look down at that horizontal axis, that is the year they entered college. So your 2002 cohort seems old. They really aren't. That means they would have graduated within the last 8 to 10 years, up until your most recent cohort, the freshmen that entered in 2011. You'll see your growth there from 36% to 47.6%. It's the single most dramatic gain of any institution in the state. Most of the institutions, as you'll see, with 1 or 2 notable exceptions, are gaining. And that, as a THEC perspective, is incredibly encouraging. It tells me the funding formula is working. It also tells me we have the right leaders, because the leaders are driving the vision of student success. But in most all these cases, you would rather have this slide at Austin P than any other institution in the state. The other point I'd make, let me back up for a moment here. This graduation rate isn't the same for every student, right? And every student doesn't face the same circumstances. Certainly, it's some experience as a student veteran. That's a different experience than a traditional freshman at 18. But what we're learning is, really, with traditional students who are 18, traditional is not that traditional anymore. Many of your traditional students are working. Many of them face very complex financial circumstances. So extracting your 47.6% down to a low-income analysis is very important to us. And this is another one that when you get data like this, you run it a couple of times because you're worried, like, how have you increased your low-income grad rate by 11% in a decade? You have. And I think Dr. White can tell you how, but it's really through great blocking and tackling of the basics of running a college. Advising, great financial aid packaging, great admissions, great athletics that drive a buzz about the institution. All of that kind of works together to create a campus where students want to be and they want to succeed. I would worry if I saw that increase but didn't see low-income success increasing, because it would tell me actually your equity gap was increasing. As your grad rate went up, you were actually doing better with maybe a higher income student. That should really make you feel good about where the institution's at. The foundation you sit on right now, it's pretty spectacular. Let me talk about, it's not all good news. Let me bring to the board 2 challenges. And these are not Austin P specific challenges. These are challenges we're asking every institution in the state to focus on right now. Because I think that a lot of our Drive to 55 progress we've made, so I said we started at 33%, we're now at 41%. A lot, and I'll take that, right? A lot of that progress was the low-hanging fruit. It was bringing in the adult who had 1 semester and we finished them up. It was grabbing the first 2 Tennessee Promise classes. So to be at 41% right now is great. To get to 55%, we essentially are at a place where we have only the hard problems that we now need to focus on. First, our rural attainment is abysmal. We have an opportunity gap in Tennessee that has a lot to do with where you live. And I'd also say this, the very rural and the very urban have a lot in common. They are sometimes some different maybe vectors that go into that situation, but at its core, we have an opportunity deficit in our rural areas. And this is a presentation, I'll give this piece at every institution. I do think this is one that Austin P could view with a particularly keen focus, though, because it's easy to look at this map and see we've got Austin P service area counties that are facing an opportunity deficit. THEC, we often try not to come with the solutions. It always feels a little bit like we're from the government, we're here to help. We're turning this one loose to the campuses to say, I hope we'll get together and think through this collectively on how to change 16% attainment in Houston County, which is, that is as low as any county in the state. And what 16% attainment looks like, I will tell you there's a very close correlation between these attainment problem counties and the opioid counties. These are very closely related problems. So we truly bring this to the institutions as we'd love to see how your particular mission could intersect with the counties in your service area. Here's what our agency is doing. We have funded now all of the lowest counties, and in your area, Houston County is the exemplar. We have direct funded those counties now to enhance what they're doing in high school around career and technical education. Houston County is going to be getting $75,000 from THEC to enhance the CTE equipment they have, so that at best, maybe we can grab some students who we get that light bulb to turn on about post-secondary and they progress on. At worst, and I don't view it as a bad case, but what if there's a student who we just can't get to go to college? Can we deliver a post-secondary credential in high school? I think that's the real opportunity for us. So THEC is direct invested in 19 of the lowest counties. We stand ready in a conversation that we'll have with the presidents over the next few months to really develop a comprehensive plan to reaching these rural counties. I think reaching them helps us reach the Drive to 55, probably more importantly from a moral perspective. I don't think we're okay with geography being the determinant of the opportunities you have in the state. And again, that's not just rural. That's our urban areas as well. Challenge 2, and this is one, I've just shown you how well you're doing on this, but I just want to make the point, low-income students on day one remain fragile. Getting them to go to college is harder than getting them to go, getting other students to go, and then once they get here, they face an array of challenges. And this data I find very alarming, and that is if you look across the 6 LGIs, and I present the community colleges here as well because I think Austin Peay has done a very good job of serving students who maybe the college said, we're going to take a chance on you based on your academic profile, and we find they do great and they thrive. This data, this gap between the 32.6 and the 41.7 is really all of our mission. And focusing on how we equalize conditions looks like, as I mentioned, it's advising. It's about students having peers they can interact with. It's about faculty that, I know this happens at Austin Peay, but we've gotten pushback from THEC when we ask campuses to call roll. You should call roll because then you know if a student wasn't there and then you can text the student. Those interventions, again, in place here. Some of the solutions to a very complex problem are very simple. And I think, and I will push Austin Peay a little bit. I think you can do better on low income because you've had such explosive growth. You've got the right framework in place to become a premier destination for all of these gaps to be closed kind of once and for all. And I know that Austin Peay takes a chance on students because you took a chance on an 18-year-old soldier who really didn't want to go to college, but I was ordered to by my squad leader. So that's another technique to get students into college. Dr. White, Chairman O'Malley, that concludes my remarks and would love to, any questions you have, any discussion, any things you want to walk through. I would put Dr. White on the spot to talk about the low-income interventions because they've been so powerful, and they are exemplars that when we go to other institutions, we're saying, you should maybe call Dr. Bird. You should maybe talk to Austin Peay about what they're doing.
I'll certainly respond to that in a moment, but I want to make sure that our trustees have an opportunity to ask questions or comment on Executive Director's remarks.
It's just a great report. Thank you.
Let me also say, not as part of the structured remarks, the Focus Act transition, and I'd ask Dr. White or Council Whiteside to jump in because this transition to the 6 boards, I will give a solid B+ right now. Dr. Collier from our team, many of you know Lauren, she is the Focus czar, and we say B+ because we can always do better. With very few exceptions, things that we thought could be huge challenges in breaking up these institutions from TBR, I would say are going pretty smoothly. That is not to say they aren't without complexity. We are working through some information systems issues. We are working through capital transition issues. But I would say that transition, the first time we all sat down to do the first Austin P board training, I think we would have been really pleased with where we've ended up as a state. And I absolutely would ask either of y'all to weigh in on that because I may be a little biased.
Well, I'm biased too, frankly. So things have been going well in our opinion, and we do have some complexities, primarily over, whose role is it to finish projects that were begun when we were still in one system. So it takes time to actually pull everything apart and say, okay, this is your part and this is your part. But that's a natural evolution when you have a structural change. But to address Executive Director Krause's remarks on access. That is part of our mission. In fact, I'll give you an elevator speech when I make my remarks in a few minutes. When you had your board training, you were encouraged by Carol Cartwright to be able to give that elevator speech if someone asks you, what's different about Austin P, or what is the main focus of Austin P? And I drafted something for you. I'll hand that out in just a few minutes. But I asked Provost Gandy to look at it and say, did I capture the right things from our mission statement and our vision statement? And he said, make sure you put something in there that we are accessible for opportunity, that we are not the school that is going to say, if you don't get this particular cut score, we're not going to give you a chance. It doesn't mean that we're a completely open enrollment institution, but we know there are a lot of very capable people who just haven't had the preparation to this point that would allow them to have opportunity to succeed in higher ed. But we know that they can succeed. The other initiative that I'm really proud of, certainly not my idea, but I thought it was just a great idea by the College of Education. So the Erickson College of Education began a center for rural education this last year. I'm not even sure if you're aware of that, but I just pulled their website when you were giving your remarks, and it is for outreach, teaching initiatives, research, and a collaborative, and it's to develop a comprehensive system of support and professional development for educators across the rural districts in Tennessee. And so, the first line of defense is always the teacher. And our Erickson College of Education will be working with teachers in rural school districts to help their students succeed and then give them a college-going mindset. And then we have some intervention strategies that are actually in my prepared remarks that I will give in just a few minutes. Thank you so much.
One thing that occurred to me, and truly many of y'all have gotten to know Dr. Collier, she's kind of been our custodian of this transition, is board professional development is an ongoing cycle, and I did call her up and kind of put her on the spot. So remember, you're part of a pretty large milieu right now of transition. UT's board is all new as well now. The entire board was vacated last spring. A new board has been brought on. We trained them about a month ago, and I was struck during that training, one, the volume of information, the deluge that you all face as new board members, and then two, the really real benefit of continued professional development. So I did ask Lauren to kind of be on the spot to talk through what some horizons might be for the board as they think about the next year or so.
Sure. An official good morning. From one who typically is sitting in the background to Chairman O'Malley and trustees. First and foremost, it has been a pleasure to observe the work that has happened here. I am here for the committees, and I see how thoughtfully you consider all that comes before you, and that's been really a joy. As we move forward, I stay in regular contact with the board secretaries and with various folks on your campus to try to take the pulse of what your interests, your needs may be, and really where you are in the developmental part of the learning curve. One of the things that we are thinking about is sort of a higher ed summit, much like we did in 2017, likely to happen August of 2019 once we have gone through some of this transition. Topics that I have heard of interest for that relate to things like risk assessment and how to prepare as a board and a campus for the types of things that occur on campuses these days. Again, always open to ideas or needs that you express. And want to make that meaningful. I will also applaud, I know at Dr. White's thought. You have gone as a board yourselves and continued to examine your board functioning and bringing in Dr. Cartwright. Again, really thoughtful as you move through this, and I would just recommend that to other boards. Some have done that as well, but applaud you for those efforts.
And I think it makes the point, as you all as board members, if there's ever an area you want a deep dive in, we can always provide that. We've gone to a couple boards and done one-on-ones about the formula that went even deeper than the initial presentation. But as these issues kind of percolate up, our goal will be probably in about 8 to 9 months to hold another board professional development session. You remember the last one. It was big, it was flashy, it was big picture. I think we want to do a work session. I think we want the chairman to get a chance to meet with the other chairman. I think we want all of the board members to be able to sit with other board members and kind of reflect on, at that point, it'll be almost 2.5 years of new governance. Dr. White, if there's nothing else, my point of personal privilege would be we know nobody graduates from THEC, as much as I love our agency. So we try to be really focused on serving campuses, and that's why when we go to campuses, we typically bring a platoon-sized element. I have our Chief Academic Officer, Betty Dandridge-Johnson, and her deputies, Dr. Julie Roberts and Corey Giesling. I'd also like to point out that Betty and Julie are in red and black, which is and really good small things matter like that when you go to campus. So I'm always grateful for the team we have, and I hope what Austin P feels, all of the senior leadership, when you call THEC, where oftentimes we want to be in a customer service role with you and try to help you succeed.
Mike, I'd just jump in and Lauren, and echo Catherine's comment and say thank you for being here. It was a terrific presentation, very enlightening, and I would further say that it may be your intention, but if not, I'd love to have you do this on a regular basis, annually, if not more.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And I would like to take a personal privilege as well. So Mike knows that I'm very fond of him, as I am all of our alumni who really give back and serve and lead. But he really is not my favorite Kraus. My favorite Kraus is about this high, and he was at our Austin P football game Saturday night cheering, and he knows the cheer very well. And he, for me and our
Cheer
guests,
that he yelled during church the next day. And you all know the cheer.
well, to encourage our govs, he was in the pouring down rain. He was there just singing top of his lungs, "Rain, rain, go away." And so I'm working early. I just want you to know this enrollment is not by accident. We are working early to recruit govs for the future. So thank you so much. We're really proud of the work that you're doing and your team as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. White. Thank you.
And back to Dr. White for a campus spotlight.
And so you just heard a perspective of what's happening at the state level, and we are now at the point in our agenda where you'll hear from someone on campus about work that's really important. So the primary role of the faculty at any institution is teaching, research, and service. And research can take a lot of forms. Come on up, Dr. Brooks, I'll introduce you in a moment. But it can take a lot of forms. And it could be creative scholarship, performances, art exhibitions. It can be social science research. It can be historical, biographical. It can be legal. It can certainly be scientific. And in certain disciplines, there are opportunities for either research grants or program grants to provide funding off campus to support the research of those who really are using research to inform their disciplines, to inform their teaching. They bring in students to learn inquiry and research methods. And so that really is a big part of university life. And I have seen a dramatic increase in productivity in that area in the last few years. And we've invited Dr. Chad Brooks, who is the Associate Provost for Research and the Dean of Graduate Studies. And as he prepares, let me just say one more thing about him. He's here today to talk about research. But he has served as the interim graduate dean for some time and then was appointed as the dean of the graduate school this year. I told you yesterday in committee that some of the work we were doing in enrollment was taking longer than I wanted it to take. We're focused on international recruitment. We're focused on graduate school recruitment. Under Dr. Brooks's leadership in the graduate school, along with the department chairs, the graduate coordinators, they have dramatically increased the graduate school enrollment, and we hit a record. We set a record this year of over 1,000 graduate students, and I thank you for your leadership there. So please give us some orientation on the research side.
Thank you so very much. Chairman O'Malley, trustees, President White, Provost, Austin Peay family. Oh, there we go. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm delighted to be the spokesperson for some of the achievements that have occurred over the past fiscal year of 2018. Before I talk about those achievements, I want to talk just a moment about some introductions of folks who are key players in the presentation I'm about to share with you. So I'm the Associate Provost for Research and Dean for College and Graduate Studies, and 1,000% of duties as assigned by the Provost and the President. I've been with the university since 2005, and I've had the blessing to watch this university thrive and be where it is today. It's been a joy. John Johnson is the Interim Director of the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs. He cannot be with us today. He is the leader of a number of grants, and because of the Fed, he has to be in D.C. for training from the Department of Education. Kelly Pitts is with us today, and she is the grant specialist. Beth Holloman is in post-retirement, so she's not with us today. She's our compliance expert. She's been with the university for just around about 15 years. And Thomas Stuckey is our accountant, and he is processing things right now. Yeah, but the real story, or real stars of the story, will be the just shy of 1,000 employees across our campus, because those are the individuals who will seek out external funding, make relationships, and if they were to secure federal funding or state funding or funding in general, they would shepherd that in ways that are meaningful and transformative to our students and our community. So what is the Office of, I'm just going to call it the Office of Grants because most folks know that name.
Chad, put the mic a little closer to you if you don't mind.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
What does the Office of Grants do? Well, we find funding opportunities for faculty and staff. We help build budgets. Budgets are very complicated, as many of you well know, but it's even more complicated when the government's involved. We act as collaborative specialists by finding those types of expertise across our nation to help bring a greater value proposition to the grants that we submit. We help with compliance. You may be aware that federal law requires certain rules to be followed when you use animals in research or human subjects. We also monitor the expenditure process because money can only be spent on certain things sometimes. We act as liaisons to vendors. We provide workshops to faculty and staff monthly. And we do a special workshop for all newly hired individuals so that they are more entrepreneurial minded when it comes to grant opportunities. We are part of the approval process for authorizing grants, and then we also help with post-award management. Many of these grants will have very complicated, again, expenditures, and we are not completely separated from TBR, as Mr. Krause mentioned, and so we have to manage how those contracts sometimes have to go to TBR for approval because they still own our debt. So when we are helping faculty and staff find grants, grants.gov is the federal repository of all grants that are federally funded, and that's in itself a complicated process. So Austin Peay has adopted a special software in 2016 called Pivot, and what this Pivot software does, it's kind of like LinkedIn. Most people are familiar with LinkedIn. You have you basically generate a personality. Well, faculty and staff can generate a personality in Pivot, and many have. And then, based on that personality, it scrapes the internet for all sorts of grants, international ones as well. And then, depending on the person, they can be notified of these grant opportunities the day that they are listed, or weekly, or monthly. And also, what Pivot allows is for faculty and staff across our campus to kind of have a P-harmony kind of matchmaking process. Right, and so they can generate some collaboratives. So last year we had around $300,000 worth of money, external funding captured just because of collaborative nature of Pivot. Brought the right people together. So this is the story that is pretty fun to share with you guys. Over the past number of years, Austin P has seen a slight steady decline in external funding. And then in fiscal year 15, many grants were written that matured and captured revenue in 2016-17, and then 2017-18, you see even more capture. So there was a 72% increase in external funding between fiscal year 16 and fiscal year 17, and then a 32% increase to this year. That last number, 6.6 million, is an all-time high for the university. This is the highest external funding that the university has ever received in its history. So this is a fantastic story, but I want to submit to you that is not the best of all stories, because as Mr. Krause mentioned, we are a university that graduates folks and transforms our communities. And so this money comes to the university and then goes out into the community in very remarkable ways. And that's really the story I want to share with you, is how these monies have come into the university and have helped a numerous number of people transform their lives and also give opportunity to regions of our community in very special ways. Before I get to that part of the story, I want to share with you also just some numbers. We tend to submit around 80 to 100 grants a year. The bottom percent awarded is a number that is kind of hard to achieve in our current atmosphere, but yet in the last fiscal year of 18, 82% of submitted grants were funded. And I want to submit to you that's because we're much more intentional about how we spend our time. We try to do a much better job of identifying the type of grant that we think a particular person, we call them principal investigator, will be more likely to capture. And so our achievement is at 82% this year, and that was pretty remarkable. So, student impact. That's the true benefit behind many of these types of grants. And so on our campus, 300 students gain more than 300 students gain valuable research and scholarly activity experiences because of these external funding projects. I'm going to share just a few stories behind those in a moment. Also, many of these grant dollars diffuse out into our community by giving high schoolers a unique opportunity to engage with very college-minded professionals, and they help them with their college preparedness. They help them with their ACT prep. They help them understand the FAFSA. They help them understand the transition and the rigor to the university environment. And as of this year, Veterans Upward Bound was funded, and as of right this very moment, 137 veterans are receiving that type of college preparedness. All right, and so they are understanding how which classes to take. They are practicing for the AccuPlacer, the type of tool that we use at this university for college placement into math classes. And so they're receiving some training in those type of tools. So the Educational Opportunity Center, the Student Support Services, also known as TRIOS, and the Veterans Upward Bound, those three grants are impacting more than 2,000 people every year on our campus. And they come to our campus for this, although we do have people leave our campus as well. So this kind of busy slide is just a small snapshot of just a few of the grants I want to just briefly speak about. So I've already mentioned the Educational Opportunity Center, TRIOS, and Veterans Upward Bound. This is led by John Johnson. Just a little bit over $900,000 of annual funding. And that money goes out to empower these professionals to help high school students in particular, but veterans too now, that we have Veterans Upward Bound, become more college ready. The Tennessee Small Business Development Center, this is led by Lauren Peters, is a $75,000 annual grant. And what she and another team member of hers do is they meet with budding business professionals who haven't started their business yet. They meet with them, help them understand budgets, help them capture a loan from one of the banks. They find a mentor for them and help them understand what is necessary to be a successful business person. Now, there's a collection of grants here. Carol Baskoff, Roman, Rebecca Johansson. These three grants kind of really showcase your typical research-driven grants. These individuals wrote a grant that's particular to their discipline. So Carol Baskoff, a seasoned professional in the Department of Biology, happens to be a geneticist of sorts, and she is looking at the rarity of plants across our state. Now, that grant is going to also pay for 6 students to work in her lab, all right, and gain a very valuable experience that otherwise, without such, they would not probably get into graduate school without it. It's almost a requirement. Roman, a physicist, has captured a major research instrument from NSF. These are really hard to get, and I could tell you about it. It has lasers, that's all I know. All right. Rebecca Johansson is an ichthyologist, which is a fancy way of saying a fish person, and she's captured a federal grant that looks at the ecology of streams. Now, streams are really great gatekeepers to our ecology. It's a window to the ecology because when streams are negatively impacted, we recognize we're doing something wrong here because we're going to drink that water eventually. And so there's a lot of other collateral impacts from monitoring streams that tells a lot about our environment. Again, those types of grants are discipline specific, but they're transformative to our students. Our students need those opportunities. Alex King's grant is another great student success model because this is governor's school, by the way, for physics. So we have these really high ACT kids coming to our campus during the summer for 3-4 weeks. I forget how long they stay, but they're living on campus, and they get this great experience, and then many of them transition to be our students. And what's great about attracting high ACT students to our campus is not because they're guaranteed to graduate, which they're not always guaranteed, but they will talk to other students, they will become tutors, they will be role models. So that's fantastic. This is one of those collaborative grants. Joe Baldwin captured just shy of $200,000 here, but this is for sexual assault training. The Me Too movement has made America aware of a lot of shortcomings in our society. Well, Austin Peay and these folks captured a grant that helps to transform us to a more forward, progressive, and equal opportunities mindset and recognize no means no. And so we have roughly 50 students every year trained in sexual assault who are going to be trainers of other students. And then that's going to be part of some other process that has yet to be completely identified, but we're already doing some of this in APSU 1000, the orientation course for all freshmen. I just want to throw out Jason O'Malley for just a second. I should have put him up a little higher, but he captured a little small grant, it's $35,000, but in this grant, 6 kids this summer stayed in Oklahoma Wildlife Flat Plains. I used to live there, so I know what it looks like. There's nothing to see. But anyway, it's flat plains, and they lived out on this terrain for 6 weeks, sampling different rodent populations, and what a great transformation opportunity for these students to have on their resume. They all want to be ecologists, and to have that type of experience is fantastic. And they get to live there and eat horrible food, I'm sure, and have that opportunity. Chris Nakutis is in charge of a Veterans Reconnect grant, and what I really like about this particular story is it examines the MOS of soldiers and tries to align existing college credit to basically knowledge they have already gained and earned through their military service. And so that these individuals can transition to Austin Peay with recognition for skills that they have already gained from their military service and push them closer to the degree a little bit faster and not, take something they already knew. Patty Orr is in nursing, and she has captured this particular grant a number of years now, and this provides mammograms to underrepresented populations here in Middle Tennessee that otherwise they would not be afforded the mammograms. Mike Wilson is the head of the GIS Center, and I like to point this particular area out to your awareness because this is the only self-sustaining unit of Austin Peay. They are completely self-funded through their contracts and grants. And one of the grants that they captured in fiscal year 18 that will still be in progress for 19 is the entire Cheatham County's 911 center is ran by that grant office. They do all the GIS management for that. And the last one I'll share with you is a THEC grant. You might have heard of the guy, Mitch Robinson. He's been around for a while. He owns that one. And what's so great about this grant, it really synergizes with what Mr. Krause spoke about. It provides mentors, advisors in school systems that have fairly low academic achievement, high-risk school systems in various counties here. And these 28 individuals help these high schoolers understand the FAFSA, college preparedness. They showcase all the different colleges they can possibly go to, and they give them a little booklet. Thank goodness Austin P is alphabetical A, but at any rate, but they help these kids understand what it means to go to college and transform their lives. Now, I just want to share this learning level of grants here just to tell you the breadth, to give you kind of an idea of how the scope of what these grants can do, how they can transform all these people's lives. That's what grant dollars do. Now, one of the roles of my unit is to help Austin P maintain a positive atmosphere for research endeavors and scholarly activities. And one of the policies that helps this entrepreneurial mindset is Policy 2059, Sponsored Research and Incentive Program. Some of you might recognize this better as indirect cost return, where grant recipients receive 15% of the indirects that the grant has pulled in that particular year. This goes into a professional development account that can be used for travel, conferences, maybe some equipment that they might need personally. The department or center of operation receives 10%. The academic college or area of operation receives 10%. The office of grants receives 35%, and the general fund receives 30% for whatever endeavors they might want to use. So this entrepreneurial mindset helps faculty and staff, or actually rewards them for the time and effort they put in, because many of these people do this in addition to their jobs in some cases.
Dr. Brooks?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to weigh in on that real quickly. So when you talk about indirect cost, some granting agencies don't allow you to request indirect costs as part of the grant, but some do. And the reason that we do is because it does cost something to allow the work to happen. Mm-hmm. So there is a space allocation for the research. There may be a lab or lab equipment. There may be time, so that if a professor is working on a particularly challenging project or a time-consuming project, then the grant itself hopefully will also allow us to hire someone to teach a particular class to reduce the load of the faculty member. And then there's going to be some of those indirects. It may go to the department to send the person who gets the research publication time to actually present it at a conference. So how do you send that person to a conference to present, or how do you send the students to a conference to present? And so when you talk about the general fund, it usually goes just for the increased overhead. So we're really talking about overhead of getting the work done. And then so when you get those indirect costs that are part of the grant itself, then whatever that indirect would be, and it can go from nothing to 42% or so, then whatever we get would be divided in that way. So I just wanted to clarify, or add my 2 cents.
Yeah, Mitch spends it well on what it needs to be spent on, right? Yes, ma'am. And it costs a lot for those lights to be on in Sunquist, so that's where my lab is. The performing arts is a unique area of our campus in the sense that they sell tickets, they are contracted to do performances, and of course they engage the community in a different way. And so I want to bring some light to them. They put on 49 expeditions, performances to the public last fiscal year, 3 of which were out of the state, and 2 additional out of those, so 5 total, 2 were actually in other countries. And they also generated 60 publications and much more. So that's a very active unit of our university that is not necessarily seen in the $6.6 million of external funding capture. So as I close, I want to share with you some quotes from 2 investigators. Patty Orr from nursing, she says that assurance in providing the highest quality and safety for patient care interventions challenges her to analyze, develop, and test new innovative intellectual solutions, to recognize a problem, envision an idea to address the problem, and then to rigorously research the The intervention's effect is a motivating thing to her mind, and that's why she does it. Why does Dwayne do what he does? Dwayne is a biologist. He's a conservation biologist, also known as the prairie preacher by many folks. And he says that he is convinced that since he was gifted with such a rare talent, that it is his responsibility to give it all, and then do his best to cultivate that talent into someone else who is going to be the future of his discipline. So that's why they do what they do. And that's just two folks of many. I like to close with you with, for me, I feel personally blessed to be here at Austin Peay, not because of what I just shown you, but because of all the things I didn't show you. We have just shy of 1,000 full-time employees here. And I have been here for a while, and I've known so many of them. And their hearts are just exquisitely in tune with the student journey. And they are members of our community, and they're embedded in our community, and they believe in Austin Peay, they believe in Clarksville, they believe in Fort Campbell, and we want to make a better future. And that's what's so remarkable about being part of this university is you know you're part of a group of folks who are trying to make a difference. And in 2017-18, the university captured $6.6 million. All right, next year, are we going to do better? I hope so. But the thing I can guarantee, are we going to transform lives? That's a guarantee. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Brooks. It's a great report, and I think it also helps me. I think I can say I speak for the board that you help remind us the importance of what we do here certainly in your last comments. So thank you very much for that, and to all your staff and the organization that you're a part of. You do some really good work, so thank you. Any additional questions?
It's not necessarily a question, but I actually got to go to one of the Office of Undergraduate Research conferences a few years ago. It was in Memphis. I didn't present research. I was actually helping one of the faculty members with her social media, so I was presenting my strategy for that. However, I got to experience some of the Austin Peay students' research. One that I recognized very well was Dominic Critchlow. He was able to get a balloon, and he sent it to space, and it had beautiful pictures and different types of things. And I really am appreciative of this office and the things that you've done and the lives you've transformed at Austin Peay. So I've definitely got to experience, and I wanted to say thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Dr. Brooks. And I think we're scheduled to take about a short break. So I want to say come back at 10 after. We'll reconvene. Thank you. Well, I guess the governor's here, so we can start. It's officially my pleasure and great honor on behalf of the board and our audience to welcome you to Austin Peay. On behalf of the board, I'd like to thank you for your commitment to the Focus Act, and certainly without you, none of us would be here. I think it's been a terrific year and a half, and together with the universities, we're making a difference in the right way. Because we've been able to focus more intently on governance at Austin Peay, we've already begun to move the needle in a number of areas, which is truly exciting. I can speak for all the trustees in saying that we're incredibly proud of the work that we get to do in supporting Austin Peay, President White, and the whole university. I also understand if you're touring some campuses, that Austin Peay is kind of first on the list, so we're very grateful and thankful to you for that. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Governor Haslam.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And there's two ways to look at that. Without you, we wouldn't be here, or without you, we wouldn't be here. So, and I realize that you could be back at your business or on your back porch or whatever it would be. And so I'm really grateful. I really came for a specific reason. I was wanting to come to the November board meeting, but I have a conflict of the day on that day. But I really came just to thank you. Year and a half ago, a little bit more, you all kind of went out on a limb with me and asked you to be part of a brand new board. And I said, my fondest hope is that you would all take ownership of the university, not in the sense of it's ours, but in the sense of responsibility and buying into what the university's mission is, and being a part of that, and with the idea that there would be a group of incredibly competent men and women who would spend their time thinking, how do we make Austin Peay an even better university? And it's been fun for me to watch from afar. I noticed the incredible increase in enrollment, which is very, very impressive. And I think everybody in this room knows this, but the demographic trends are going the other way. We're losing people in that age gap in the country. And so most universities are struggling with enrollment, and the fact that you all have seen this incredible growth is great. And also noted the growth in graduate students. I think you're up to how many now?
Over 1,000.
Over 1,000, which is a huge milestone. So congratulations. I know you've made a couple of significant hires. I don't know if the two generals you've just hired are here, but
There's one right there.
General Brad, yeah, welcome. Your reputation precedes you. I've heard multiple great things about you, and had some folks even from outside of the state say, man, no, you got one of our best at Austin Peay, so congratulations, or thank you, I should say, congratulations to the team here for bringing you aboard. We're honored to have you with us. So I really just came to thank you. Like I said, you all went out on a limb in agreeing to do this, but I also came to have a short conversation. I know you all have other agenda items, and I have to get back down to Nashville, but I'd love just to hear perspective that might be helpful for me. And as you all know, I'm short, as they say, in terms of my time here. I have, I think, about 18 more weeks. Told folks this is an interesting job. When you lose it, you lose your job and your house and your car and kind of everything else that goes with it. So, but I was encouraged when I, pulled onto campus. It said, be a gov. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm good here. For a few more weeks, I'm good. So I might just come out, hang out here after. I was saying, I'm getting ready to get laid off, and people said, no, getting laid off is when they don't replace you. You're being replaced, so you're being fired. So I will come hang out here and just stare winsomely or wistfully at the signs on campus. But I would love to, just for a few short minutes, I'd love to hear kind of reflections and thoughts about kind of what this change has meant for the university, observations from board members that might be helpful. And one of the things we're working hard to do is prepare a great transition book for the folks that come after us. And one of the pieces of that is, effective governance of our higher ed institutions. So I would love just any input that you all have for me or observations after the first year and a half. Anybody? All right, Billy, I know I can count on you.
Personally, and I think for the board, it's a wonderful experience. We know the university is here, and for most of us, we know more about the athletic department over the last several years than the academic side. If I put my personal professional hat on, I have to have employees. Mm-hmm. I have to have well-trained, educated employees in today's world. This university is providing that, and we're getting to see the academic side. We're getting to hear from professors, department heads, and we've had, for me personally, such a greater understanding of what really goes on in the university and the intense focus on these young people getting out of high school and trying to get greater education. And I think they're getting it here, and it's been a real pleasure to serve on this board. So thank you very much.
Great, thanks. Any other insight that would be helpful for me?
Well, I'll say something. I was telling Dr. White, one of the features of every meeting is what she calls a campus spotlight. And we just had one with Dr. Brooks today, and there's so many things that go on at the university that before we sat around this table, we had no idea the breadth of activities and what goes into making that happen, and how it impacts the students, and more importantly, how it impacts our community and the state. So the knowledge that we've gained from sitting here has been invaluable, and I don't know how you did it as a board of regents overseeing all of the universities with one board before. So I echo Billy's comments. We thank you for the opportunity to serve, and it just makes a lot of sense to have an individual board for each university.
I think one thing that we've all enjoyed is since we know what's going on at Austin Peay, everybody knows that we're on the Board of Trustees, and it's amazing the number of people that we come in contact with in professional organizations and just civic things that we do. And the insight that we can give them on what's happening at Austin Peay.
Good.
And I know in terms of fundraising that Austin Peay does a great job on that, but now there's a lot more advocates out in the community saying, hey, this is a great place to spend your money and we're getting bang for our buck. I know Billy and I have been on the industrial board, and we know with beyond any shadow of a doubt that we've got to have educated people to compete in today's world. And I think one thing that we have in Clarksville right now is that we've got a military base where we have 400 people that are getting out of service every month, and we've got industry here that's able to give jobs to those people. And when we're recruiting industry, about the number one question they ask that they look at is education.
Totally.
And so we've got a great high school education through here for school throughout for people, but to have a college here is an incredible asset to Clarksville, Tennessee. That just it's amazing that that's one thing that defines our city. And I'd like to thank you for your commitment to higher education. I mean, it's been. I'd have to tell you that I hope your predecessor, I want you to give him a transfusion, the next one that's coming, because we need to, this needs to continue. This is what's going to make Tennessee an incredible state and a hotbed for industrial development. Thank you so much. When you, like most jobs, you finally learn what you're doing about the time you leave. But one of the things that I will point out to my successor is all this stuff is connected. You come in and think about when you're first governor. I mean, we have with $37 billion budget, 40,000 employees, not counting education employees, and we do everything from build roads to run prisons to educate 4-year-olds and PhD students, and mental health, et cetera, et cetera. But it's all connected, and you're right. I mean, if economic development is a big mission of ours, it's just so completely tied to what we're doing education-wise. And interestingly, I was in Asia a month ago, and we were talking about Clarksville, Tennessee. And this is them bringing it up to me, and they're talking about the same things you did. Like, we love the fact that Fort Campbell's there. We love the fact that Austin Peay is in the area, and learning how to tie all that together is, I think, has been our strategic advantage, and can be even more so. Well, like I said, I'm going to take off in a few minutes, but let me ask this: if you were, like I said, I'm going to put together a really good. Kind of notebook for whoever follows me. If you were writing that and it was about this school and this board, what information would you want me to put in there for my successor about this board and this school that would help? I've been saying him or her, but now that we know it's going to be a him or a him.
Well, I have a point. I think this board is, and maybe this happens in every board, but I think this board has such a great diversity of opinions. We've got military, business, doctors, teachers, students. I think that diversity of opinion is important, and I think the relationship with Dr. White is important. I will tell you one just comment. Personally, from the very beginning, one thing that was a challenge to get used to was the sunshine law, and that you had to be very careful who you talk to. I'm used to saying, Don Jenkins, what do you think about this? Or Mike, what do you think about this? And that was a real adjustment to think, we can't have those conversations. But I think we've all adjusted to that now and only have appropriate conversations in these meetings.
That was a learning curve, not just for this board, but for all of ours, as Mike Krause will tell you. It was a little bit, most people had just not been in a public environment, and they had an issue. They used to pick up the phone and say, what are we going to do?
Dr. White's a great communicator, though.
Right.
She will let everybody know if there's something sensitive or what's happening, and so I think that's a good thing to pass along.
Good. Anything else that you'd want me to put in the letter, particularly like specifically about Austin Peay?
Well, first of all, we have a visionary president, and that's phenomenal. She's really on top of everything, and she's thinking so far in the future. It's exciting to be part of that. And I would want to mention our military connection. Because Fort Campbell's here, we've got a lot of military. This is a very military-friendly town, but it's an incredibly military-friendly college.
Yeah.
And I know with the new military center that we're getting ready to build here, it will be very active. The other thing that Austin Peay does so well locally is that on local industry, they have classes for local industry for needs that local industry has. So it's an amazing partnership with the city of Clarksville.
That's a good ad. Anything else?
One of the things that I hear as I'm on campus, a lot of it is from faculty, department heads. We're all in a fast-paced world now with technology. And by having boards of trustees, these universities, versus a board of regents to go to, things just happen so much more in a business fashion, so much quicker. And I get a lot of thanks from people on campus about they can see things being done, and not knocking the Board of Regents, but they've been there and they got a lot on their plate, have had in the past. But I think just the fact that we can meet on a regular basis or a quarterly basis and just make decisions, help the president and the university make these decisions and get things done versus what they have experienced in the past.
Could I weigh in on that as well? So if you're talking to someone about how to select board members, I want to start by saying thank you, because I really do believe we have a very strong board. But what happens for me is I get the benefit of consultants who have phenomenal experience in areas that I don't have. And so if I have a question about finance, I can pick up the phone and call Larry Carroll, one of the top financial advisors in the country, and I have access to him. We have business owners and franchisees, and we have professionals and dentists, and if we're talking about healthcare, I've got someone I can go to. And I do have to say that we take this responsibility with the military seriously. And if you're counting stars, so between General Mealer and General Luck, I've got 5 on the board. And then with General Bailey and General Brower is not here today. He is with General Campbell in Nashville at a military event. But between General Bailey and General Brower, I have 4 stars. So we have 9 stars on our senior leadership team and in our board.
It's a little intimidating.
So, and it was meant to be that way. But as people come and go, we need people with a variety of experience to really help support the intellectual needs of the president. And so that would be helpful to me.
One of the things as governor you're not prepared for is how many appointments you have and how critical they are. And it's easy to kind of revert to the easy and say, well, here's somebody that's always been around. But your point about putting together a strategic group of people is helpful. Well, let me say this, and I appreciate you all recognizing Dr. White's leadership. She impressed me in this when we first came up with this whole idea of the focus boards and having each institution have its own board. The existing presidents had one of 2 reactions. Some of them, quite frankly, if you're in the situation where you're part of a larger group, if you wanted to hide, you could hide because you just, you didn't have a group of folks who were focused on your institution. And Dr. White was the exact opposite of that. I brought it up to her in a restaurant. I don't know if you remember, we had lunch at Liberty Grill, and she jumped when I mentioned the idea of, wow, I would love that kind of help in terms of leading the university. So I'd always been impressed with you, but when I saw your eagerness to do something that would help the university, I was even more impressed. And then finally, I'd just say this. I came to thank you, but also to challenge you. You're all off to a great start. Is exactly what I think we had all hoped this would be. But there is incredible amount of potential for this university in this area. Like I said, we don't have an area of higher interest economic development wise in the whole state than the one you're right in the middle of, period. And you can talk about all the reasons and Fort Campbell, Ospey, et cetera, but the reality is it's true. And it's almost like with every company we talk to and people think, well, we push them a certain direction. Companies kind of, we lay out options and they decide for themselves where they're going to go. But there is not a place in the state that has more high-level interest on a consistent base than this one. And so keep going and see you're part of the mission of the bigger role of what's going on, because it's been incredibly helpful. And then it's not just about producing folks who are going to work for businesses, but producing great teachers and doctors and mental health professionals and everything else that is coming out of this university. It's incredibly helpful to us what you're doing, and it's important. And I hope you have some sense that I know a lot of you doing it because you love Austin P or you love Clarksville and you're committed to the area. But I hope you have some sense of the bigger mission that's going on that you're a part of. So, with that, I will let you go back to your regularly scheduled meeting. But I didn't want to miss a chance to thank all of you in person. Some of you we had to talk into coming over mountains and other things, and we very much and I know that. There's a certain inconvenience factor, but coming from out of town and others, but I'm very, very grateful for your time. So thank you. And I'm going to slide out and let y'all go back.
Thank you, Governor. Before you leave,
Yes.
as you near the end of your second term as our great Tennessee governor, I want to present you with this Austin P.
Perfect.
governor's pin. So it's not until today that you're
Perfect.
officially say you're a governor.
That is perfect.
And from one governor to another,
Yes.
let me just give you a small token of our
Oh,
appreciation
perfect.
from the board and everybody here at Austin P. And we love the fact that you came to see us today. Thank you.
Perfect. And I'll even after. Hold on. Let me get it. I have a big habit, not that big. It does increase when you're in this office, but. Now it's not too big, but anyway, I appreciate it. Like I said, I'm a big fan of what y'all are doing here, and so appreciative of the effort. So, thank you guys.
Back to work. That's cool. Well, that was kind of cool. So back to work. I'd now like to recognize Trustee Jenkins, the chair of the Academic Policies and Programs Student Life Committee, to give us a report on the committee's meeting yesterday. Don?
Thank you for the opportunity to present my report from yesterday's Academic Programs and Policy Student Life Board Committee meeting. The committee reviewed the following information items. Provost Gandy informed the committee of the status of the SAC COC level change. Provost Gandy also provided information on unduplicated enrollment, degree and certificate awards, and program productivity. The committee reviewed and approved the following action items: change of degree designation for Master of Professional Studies and Bachelor of Professional Studies, student conduct and disciplinary sanctions rule. The above items will be presented for your review and action after the approval of the board committee minutes. The committee also voted to postpone the vote on Dr. Robert Halliman's petition for the right to appeal the promotion decision. That concludes my report. I move that the board approve the minutes of the September 13th Academic Programs and Policies Student Life Board Committee as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we adopt the minutes of the Academic Policies and Programs Student Life Committee. Any discussion? The minutes are approved. Oh, Oh, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Now the minutes are approved. Trustee Jenkins' report contains some action items that we need to consider as a full board. Trustee Jenkins, do you have a motion for us?
Yes, you have before you the information regarding the change of degree designation for Master of Professional Studies and Bachelor of Professional Studies. By the direction of the committee, I move that the board approve change of degree designation for Master of Professional Studies and Bachelor of Professional Studies as written in the board agenda.
And because it is a motion of the committee, we do not need a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, the question on the motion, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Don?
Next, we have approval of the Student Conduct and Disciplinary Sanctions Rule. You have before you the information regarding the Student Conduct and Disciplinary Sanctions Rule. By direction of the committee, I move that the board approve the Student Conduct and Disciplinary Sanctions Rule as written in the board agenda.
Any discussion?
I just want to point out that, just as a point of information, that the changes that were made in the Student Conduct Code were a result of requirements by legislative action, okay, to bring us in line with those things.
Thank you very much. Secretary, please call the roll.
Trustee Atkins.
Yes.
Trustee Canada.
Yes.
Trustee Carroll.
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins.
Yes.
Trustee May.
Yes.
Trustee Mueller.
Yes.
Trustee O'Malley.
Yes,
Trustee Rayburn.
Yes.
8 yeses.
thank you. And thank you, Don. I'd now like to recognize Trustee Kanata, member of the Audit Committee, to give us a report of the committee meeting yesterday.
Yesterday, the Audit Committee took action on the following items. The committee approved the salaries and budget of the Office of Internal Audit for fiscal year 2019. The committee also approved the fiscal year 2019 internal audit plan. The committee listened to presentations on 3 items: the Office of Internal Audit's fiscal year 2018 year-end report, the internal audit reports issued between May 12th of this year through August 20th of this year, along with the list of outstanding audit recommendations, and thirdly, an update on the recent quality assessment review. Could I have a motion to accept the minutes of the meeting yesterday?
So move.
Is there a second? Don, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that we adopt the minutes of the Audit Committee. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the minutes of the Audit Committee meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Trustee Kanata, are there any items for the full board to consider?
Not today.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to recognize Trustee Atkins, Chair of the Business and Finance Committee, to give us a report on their committee meeting yesterday.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to present my report from yesterday's Business and Finance Committee meeting. The committee reviewed and approved the following action items. 1, consideration of out-of-state tuition rate. B, consideration of improvements to the Charles C. Hand baseball facilities. And 3, consideration of improvements for the Military Family Resource Center. These items will be presented for your review and action in a few minutes. And that concludes my report. And I move that the board approve the minutes of the September 13th meeting.
Is there a second? It has been moved and seconded that we adopt the minutes of the Business and Finance Committee meeting. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the minutes of the Business and Finance Committee meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are adopted. Trustee Atkins' report contains some action items that we need to consider as a full board. Trustee Atkins, do you have a motion for us?
Yes, trustees, you have before you a copy of the out-of-state tuition rate. And by direction of the committee, I move to approve the out-of-state tuition rate as written, Mr. Chairman.
And because it's a motion of the committee, we don't need a second. You have heard the motion on the out-of-state tuition rate. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, the question on the out-of-state tuition rate is on the table. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
All right. And trustees, you also have before you a copy of the improvements to the Charles C. Hand baseball facilities. And by direction of the committee, I move to approve the improvements to the Charles C. Hand baseball facilities as written.
You've heard the motion on the baseball facilities. Any discussion? Hearing none, the question on the baseball facilities motion is on the table. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
All right. Trustees, you also have before you a copy of the improvements for the Military Family Resource Center. And by direction of the committee, I move to approve the improvements for the Military Family Resource Center as they're written.
You've heard the motion on the Military Family Resource Center. Any discussion? I would just say I think it's going to be a great facility. It goes in the, what, Don? The old Lincoln Mercury building. General Brower is here to kind of run the show, and it's going to be a fabulous new facility for campus in a very visible area. So that's awesome. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the question on the Military Family Resource Center is on the table. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Billy. And thank you for the opportunity to present my report from yesterday's executive committee meeting. The committee reviewed and approved the instrument that we will now use for the board to evaluate itself, which is required by SACS COC. Between now and our November meeting, the board secretary will send us the evaluation instrument, compile its findings, and prepare a report for us to discuss at the next meeting. That concludes my report, and I move that the board approve the minutes of the September 13th Executive Committee as written. Is there a second? Second. It has been moved and seconded that we adopt the minutes of the Executive Committee. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the minutes of the Executive Committee, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. We need to now set the calendar of meeting dates for 2019. As a reminder, the Focus Act requires the board to have 4 regularly scheduled meetings per year. The following dates are presented after polling the trustees about their availability and reviewing the campus calendar. The proposed 2019 meeting dates are as follows. The spring meeting is March 14 and 15. Summer meeting June 6 and 7. The fall meeting September 19 and 20. And the winter meeting November 21 and 22. I move that we accept the proposed meeting calendar for 2019. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Everybody cool with those dates, as far as you know? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the meeting calendar for 2019 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. And at this time, I'd like to recognize President White to provide background on the contract for President Emeritus Sherry Hoppy.
When President Hoppy was hired, the standard practice at that time was to offer presidents who achieved emeritus status an opportunity to continue to support the university through a variety of taking on some responsibilities, but it was also a retirement benefit at that time. President Emeritus Hoppy is very faithful to serve our institution. She attends functions. She has very often attended some alumni functions for me if I can't leave campus, and she'll go to Atlanta or go to some functions in Chattanooga representing some of the administration of the university. She also has provided a lot of personal assistance and counsel and
building relationships among some of the donors that she cultivated when she was here. And so I recommend that opportunity that she was promised when she was hired be continued by this board.
So you've heard the explanation from President White regarding approval of Dr. Hoppy's contract. Is there a motion to approve Dr. Hoppy's 2018-19 contract?
Motion.
And is there a second?
Second.
It's moved and seconded then that we approve Dr. Hoppy's 2018-19 contract. Is there any discussion?
Only for clarification, Dr. White, you mentioned something about this is part of a retirement. Is this part of the?
Yes, at the time that she was hired, the original agreement with the Tennessee Board of Regents was that there would not be any work responsibilities associated with the contract. And then a few years later, that was changed. And so there are several presidents who are continuing in that relationship as they finish out those promises that were made to them upon their hire. And so at some point, there was a responsibility piece added to the contract. And there are still presidents in the former TBR system that are under that system. But President Hoppy will be the last person under that arrangement for Austin Peay. And so that is no longer an option for any other presidents emerit.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, the question on Dr. Hoppy's 2018-19 contract is on the table. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. At this time, I'd like to again recognize President White to provide background on the certification for the OVC Governing Board.
We are privileged at Austin Peay to have just an outstanding athletics program, and I'll be introducing our new AD in a moment, but we have, we're at the right level of Division I athletics where we really want to win. We are competitive. We are increasingly competitive, but we also put the welfare of the student athlete as the top of any of our obligations. We want every student athlete who enrolls in Austin Peay to have a wonderful experience as a student athlete, but also a wonderful experience as a student, and that student who graduates with a degree in hand to join life in the workforce after graduation. It's really important to us and to the Ohio Valley Conference that we operate with integrity, that we don't put our students in a situation where they would be unsafe, where we really pay attention to what happens in the athletics program so that we don't have some of the same issues that have plagued some other universities across the nation in the last numbers of years. So this certification form that you'll find behind your tab E111, or I believe it is, just ask the chairman of the board to sign on behalf of the board your understanding that the responsibility to oversee the athletics program at Austin Peay is mine, and that I work directly with the director of athletics, and that we are all as a group pledging to make sure that we operate in full compliance of the NCAA, the OVC, and all other rules and regulations. This is also a requirement by SAC-COC that the athletics program fall directly under the purview of the chief operating officer or chief executive officer, whether it be a president or a chancellor. I am very grateful to our program for providing that opportunity for athletes to play, for students on campus to be part of that cheering fan base, and we have a wonderful band also and dance team, cheerleaders. It's a very large group of people who are involved in our athletics program. I'm also grateful for those in our community and across the country, really, who support our athletics. And so it's important to us, but this just is an acknowledgement, and we will ask you, acknowledgement of its proper place at the university and a pledge that we give proper oversight to it. And this is a pledge that we're asked to make every year. And when we were in the Tennessee Board of Regents, this was signed by the chancellor. But now that we are independent or a locally governed institution, it falls on the chairman of the board.
Thank you, Dr. White. You've heard the explanation from President White regarding approval of the OVC Governing Board certification. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Seconded.
It is moved and seconded that we approve the OVC Governing Board certification. Any discussion? Hearing none, the question is on the approval of the OVC Governing Board certification. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And the motion carries. You have before you the proposed Tennessee Open Records rule. I'd like to recognize Donnell Whiteside to provide a description of the rule.
Thank you, Chairman O'Malley. As Dr. Rayburn mentioned, there are a number of laws that came out of this previous legislative session that requires you all to adopt rules, and one of them is the Tennessee Open Records Rule. We currently have a policy that basically mirrors the Tennessee model open records policy, and I just put that in a rule that says we're going to continue doing that. So that's basically it.
Thank you, Donnell. You've heard Ms. Whiteside's explanation. I move that the board approve the Tennessee Open Records Rule. Is there a second? It's moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, the question on the approval of the Tennessee Open Records Rule is on the table. Please call the roll.
Trustee Atkins? Yes. Trustee Canada?
Yes.
Trustee Carroll?
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins?
Yes.
Trustee May?
Yes.
Trustee Mueller?
Yes.
Trustee O'Malley?
Yes.
Trustee Rayburn?
Yes.
8 yeses.
Thank you. And now at this time, I again recognize President White to give her report and also to report on any interim items.
Thank you, Chairman O'Malley. I want to begin by delivering on a promise made to you after the last board training in June. It was recommended by Dr. Cartwright that, again, everyone involved in the administration of Austin Peay be able to give that elevator speech that would allow you to represent the university to people who were not acquainted with our mission or our history. And so we have just that for you. I didn't have it put in your packets. McCartney's going to give you this sheet, but the idea is that you would take this home with you, which is why we didn't put it in your packets. But essentially, it pulls from our mission and our vision, and talks a little bit about our campus on Fort Campbell, and then also our belief in access and opportunity for all students. And then the second item we'll pass around is something that you asked Secretary of the Board Whiteside to prepare, which is a master calendar of the type of recurring business. So you can look at this calendar and know in advance when you'll be asked to pass a budget, when you'll be asked to deal with capital projects, when you'll be asked to set tuition recommendations and that kind of thing. And so that master calendar is also for you to take with you, so you'll have an idea of what's coming. So now I want to begin by introducing some new members of our senior leadership team. And yes, Mr. Krause was right. We were busy this summer. I told our colleagues who were moving on that I was certainly supportive of their opportunities and really proud of those opportunities for them. Both Derek Vandermeer and Ryan Ivey did great work for us, and now we're going to do great work in a place, in one place like 4 times larger, and another place with a significantly higher budget. But I said, I'm okay with it, but I'm not okay with you messing up my summer. And that's sort of what happened. But, we have a great story to tell, and we've been able to recruit some outstanding new leaders. And frankly, I'm so excited about this year. In fact, I've never started a year that I'm any more excited than I am today. And so we're going to continue our forward momentum, and I'm going to ask Lieutenant General Ronald Bailey to stand just for a moment. He is our new Vice President for External Affairs, and he began August 1. Now, he is taking on the role that Derek Vandermeer had, so the title has changed. Yeah, I try not to make the same mistake twice. And yes, and so it was Vice President for Advancement, Communication, and Strategic Initiatives. But General Bailey is very efficient and concise, and after consultation, he is the Vice President for External Affairs. Thank you, General. Yeah. So I'll tell you a story, but he retired last year from the United States Marine Corps as a 3-star general, and he earned his undergraduate degree from Austin Peay and played football here. I looked up his bio a few years ago because I wanted him to be our commencement speaker. And sometimes you look up a bio and find out your university is nowhere to be found, but prominent right on that first page, right at the top, General Bailey has always had in his bio that he is a graduate from Austin Peay State University, and I'm very pleased about that. He also earned graduate degrees from Webster University and the National War College. He built a distinguished career in the Marines, during which he gained experience in strategic planning, marketing, and communication. And what I say about him is that, you know, when you can find somebody who could build a city in Afghanistan in 2 days, you've got the right person. I'm also delighted to welcome our new Director of Athletics, Mr. Gerald Harrison. Gerald, would you stand as well? He joined us August 13, and Mr. Harrison came to us from Duke University, where he was Senior Associate Director of Athletics, and before that was an administrator in the football program at the University of Tennessee. You know, the great thing about Gerald Harrison, there are many great things about Gerald Harrison, but you know, when you work for Mr. Cutcliffe at Tennessee, and he leaves and goes to Duke, and he asks you to follow him, you know, when you move to a new place, you have an opportunity to start fresh. He took the person he knew could help him succeed, and that was Gerald Harrison, and we are delighted to have you with us today. He and I used to take classes in the same building, me a few decades before. He has a baccalaureate degree in communications from the University of Tennessee, and he's working on a master's degree at Western Kentucky University. On September 1, Brigadier General Scott Brower joined Austin Peay as the new military advisor in residence. General Brower joined us after his retirement in the Army. In fact, he retired August 31. He began here September 1. He earned his undergraduate degree at the United States Military Academy. He then attended the Naval Postgraduate School, earned a master's degree in defense analysis at the Command and General Staff College. General Brower is helping us to advance our work in support of all military-connected students. I mentioned this new position to you at the last board meeting and told you that we were working toward this end, but the title has changed since that time. But I'm really delighted that we were able to fill this role with someone who, he's a special forces guy. And so he commanded the 5th Group. He's got recent Fort Campbell experience, including serving as the senior commander when the commanding general was deployed a couple of years ago. He's attending a military-related event today and couldn't be with us, but he was here yesterday, and he sends his regard. I'm very grateful for the addition of these new team members. We do have 2 members of our executive team now who are retired generals from the military. I'm also grateful to have Mr. Greg Singleton. I introduced him to you in June, but he's serving as the interim vice president for student affairs, and we are not missing a beat there as we do a national search for Dr. Bird's replacement. This semester, we've started some new things that you have approved for us to begin. I just wanted to give you a little status update. This really is, my remarks today are sort of a state of the university because I wanted to give you an idea of what we accomplished last year, but also why we are doing what we're doing in the light of some new information about enrollment trends and demographics that the governor and Mr. Krause shared with you as well. So our faculty and staff have been busy developing new programs to meet our students' needs. And, you know, we have great support from THEC in that regard, and I just want you to wave Dr. Betty John Standridge. Wait. So she is the person who reviews every one of our academic programs. And when I say she reviews them, that woman has to have a magnifying glass, but she is very good, and we appreciate your support of our initiatives to grow and meet the needs of our region in terms of academic offerings. So our first doctoral program that you had approved, THEC's approved, and SACS has approved our level change, the Doctor of Education and Educational Leadership, it's off to a good start. We started with 20 in the cohort, which is a very solid beginning. In fact, a lot of those programs will start with 7 to 10 in the first cohort. So I'm really excited about that. We'll admit additional students in subsequent years. The nation is expected to see a 6% increase in elementary and secondary school administrators by 2024. In Tennessee, that equates to about 220 annual job openings. So we've got to get more students out the pipeline to be doctors of education to lead in these school systems, particularly in the rural areas. And I think our Center for Rural Education will help us there. We kicked off 8 new certificate programs ranging from data mining to conflict negotiation and resolution this fall as well. And 2 more certificates will be available to students after they receive approval from SAC-COC. I'm really happy with the work that our university advancement and alumni relations teams have been doing. And they have been busy working with the deans and the other members of the campus to raise money. That's really important. Why do we need to raise money? Well, we can't have a military-friendly student center. We can't have a center for military families if we don't have money to help us renovate the space and to support the center. And so we've been asking people with hearts aligned with ours to help invest in what we think is important for our students. And so it's really important. And so because of their work, the team raised $9.85 million in gifts and pledges last fiscal year. That's the second highest total in university history. The only time we had more was when someone named the College of Education, the Erickson College of Education. So they really did a fabulous job. And this is what's really significant too, is they're reaching out to more people who've never really invested in Austin Peay before. So more than 3,500 individuals and organizations gave to various programs. And one area of high performance was athletics. $3.7 million was raised last year in support of our athletics program. The second annual Govs Gives campaign, which a lot of you participated in, raised more than $170,000 from more than 400 donors in 72 hours. That's really cool because over 2 years, we've gotten $325,000 from that, but 250 new donors, again, people who had never given anything to Austin Peay. In addition, proceeds from the Candlelight Ball, which benefits student scholarships, set a record this year as well. And so I appreciate all the support. All of you here at the table support Austin Peay, but I want you to know also that our faculty, our staff, our administration, our students, our alumni, and many friends of the university also are important contributors to our mission. Last year, PR and marketing started implementing a new website design to better serve prospective students. That was painful because we all like things filed where we know that they're supposed to be, but we are realizing that the website really isn't for us. It's for people who are looking at Austin Peay, who might be joining Austin Peay. And since going live, we've had more than 1 million new visitors and 28 million plus page views. The website won the Excellence in Total Website Design and Organization Award from the Council for Advancement in Supportive Education, District 3. That's a 9-state region in the Southeast. So I'm really proud of their work there. And then the website also won several awards at the Tennessee College Public Relations Association, including gold in overall website. So I say that to say, yes, we're just going to have to live with this great website that's getting awards across the country because it's serving prospective students. Our faculty, staff, and students are representing the university well. I'm really proud of the police department. Chief Cassets, thanks for being here today. But the APSU Police Department earned accreditation by the Tennessee Association of Chiefs of Police. That's an important accreditation. The Department of Computer Science and Information Technology offered coding camps sponsored by Google to area high school students, more than 200 high school students, and first-year college students. That's important. We care about our partners in the region. We do have LG and Hankook and Google and others moving in, and we want to be a part of our community, and we want our students involved with manufacturers and business, small business, large businesses, and we also want to serve those their employees that they're bringing into the region. But when they have an expertise and they have a name like Google, and we can partner the Austin Peay expertise, I mean, we're one of the better programs in computer science in the Southeast. If we can take our expertise with theirs and offer something to the community, that really is a win. Last month, we were honored by NASA, Dr. Maish and her team in the College of Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math, along with great work by public relations and marketing and advancement. We had the entire campus. We had the police force involved. Thank goodness for the parking folks, I'll just say that. But we won an award by NASA for our help with the 2017 Great American Eclipse. And the award was given because of exemplary implementation of NASA core values during the eclipse. Two of our communication professors won a Tennessee First Grand Jury Prize for their documentary on the history of Clarksville. So we have people who are exceeding all expectations. They are excelling in all of their areas. And of course, another group of Govs leading very visibly is athletics. So you met a lot of our coaches last meeting, and you'll do more that time when that time rotates again, and we know how we are handling our season and that kind of thing. But I just have to brag on them because last year, our student athletes posted back-to-back semesters of department-wide 3.0 GPAs. Yay.
Wow, good job.
Yeah. That is why we're here. And so I was really proud of the work there. And then our athletics department has seen a 43% increase in the Govs Club membership in the last year or so, and a 20% increase in season ticket sales. And if you were at the game Saturday night, I was looking for Noah. I didn't see him, but I think he's in North Carolina today. But our game was delayed several hours, and we didn't finish till about 11 o'clock. But do you know we still had a ton of folks in the seats, and they'd have to run to the foyer and get out of the Lightning, and then get back in the seats. It was a crazy night, which we won 24-0. But our fans were that was just slipped in there. But our fans were with us all the way. At the June board meeting, Vice President Mitch Robinson updated us on the progress of our master plan. Just to update you there, the State Building Commission did approve that after your approval, so they approved it June 14. The former Ford building will serve as the new location for the Ann Ross bookstore. That's at 4th and Home, and it will be renovated this year. That project was one that was begun before we actually separated and got our own board, and so that project is still being managed with the help of our former overseers. And so we are working through that process, but we're a little bit behind. And so the process just takes a little bit longer. And so the designs are being done right now, and the architects are working, and the renovations will be hopefully completed within the year, and we'll be moving in next year. So now I'm getting to some of the tough stuff and some of the fun stuff. So because of the hard work, and when I say hard work, I'm talking, I see people on campus with rocks and chisels to get some new ground plowed. I mean, they are doing an incredible job in an increasingly challenging environment. Our enrollment management team, student affairs, our housing office, who shoehorns students in sometimes, and faculty and staff across the university help recruit, register, find housing, and welcome students to our campus. And because of that, we have seen continuous enrollment growth. That is incredibly rare and remarkable given the national landscape. Our nation experienced its highest college and university enrollment in 2010 during the Great Recession. That means for the last 8 years, college enrollments have been declining nationally. As economic conditions have improved, more people have joined the workforce, and that's a good thing. However, data show that most college graduates make significantly higher salaries during their work lives than workers with only a high school education. Also, demographic data indicates a slowdown in college going because there are fewer prospective students in the pipeline. So the governor referenced that as well. And I read an article this week that pointed to the demise of Toys R Us as a bellwether for higher education. Toys R Us was dependent on a continuing supply of babies and children, newborns and children, as users of its products. A recent research study, though, shows that birth rates are declining in many areas of the United States. And if you don't have as many end users, you're not going to have as many buyers for your product. I read a study that showed a flattening in the number of high school graduates, significant declines in the number of high school graduates in some regions, and a pool of high school graduates growing increasingly diverse. That changes the landscape for us and has great implication for this board and your work. The number of high school graduates in the U.S. and in Tennessee is expected to top out in 2026. At that point, it's expected that high school graduates will decrease as much as 8% in the decade after, and I saw some data yesterday that is predicting a decline of up to 15%. Now, we are looking at where the opportunities are, and you've seen the Drive to 55 data. You saw the THEC data today that shows we have a lot of work to do to get more Tennesseans graduated. It's not just going to be from those high school seniors. But I look at it as a leaky bucket. If we, the reason we're trying to go back to adults and reconnect them to higher ed is they didn't stay in or they didn't go. The more of our 18 and 19-year-olds, 17, 18, 19-year-olds who don't go, the more work we're going to have to do to help them to get degrees or credentials later. And I'm talking about all kinds of credentials and degrees. But we have to make sure that in that pipeline, we get as many of them going to college as possible. The South is expected to have some growth in high school graduates until 2025, with non-white graduates then expected to become the majority. Tennessee high school graduates are different. We are less diverse than the South overall, but we need to make sure that all of our residents across all demographic sectors have access to education and have opportunities to get degrees to meet workforce requirements. And it's not just workforce. We're talking about a nation that's changing so quickly, a world that's changing so quickly. The jobs that are here today may not even be jobs in 10 years. And the jobs that we'll be able to push students out to take in 15 years, we may not even know of today. Who ever heard of Uber 10 years ago? Now, that's a terrible example. I'll use Twitter. Celeste spent this summer in San Francisco at a Twitter internship. Who was tweeting 10 years ago? And if everybody but me, I'm a little bit late, but I don't think so. So the world is changing. So we need an educated populace, not just a trained populace. And that's really important for our work. Enrollment growth will be mainly among lower income families, and affordability will be increasingly important. I'm going to talk about enrollment in just a minute, but the reason I wanted to stay there just a moment and to give you an opportunity in the middle to ask questions or make comments is this. It would be very easy just to say, let's take the students who are at the top of their class, even though that doesn't always signal preparedness. Because if you're at the top of your class in a very large high school or a private high school or a very small rural high school, you may have had a very different educational experience. But if we just took the top, our retention numbers would be great, our graduation numbers would be great, most of those students would be better able to pay, so our financial situation would be great, but that is not Austin Peay. We're going to 3 commencement ceremonies in the spring. We've had 2. There's room for the graduates. There's not room in all the ceremonies for the families. The only way we could get them in 2 ceremonies is to limit by giving tickets. I'm going to do that only as a last resort because we have so many students whose family members have never seen anybody walk across the stage. If they bring 100, I want them to have a place to be, right? Mm-hmm. Carol's going, no. Carol Clark chairs our commencement committee. But we're going to add a ceremony, and it's going to be difficult to do. But we know our mission, and we have some outstanding students who are at the top of the ACT, top of the SAT. They're tops. And we want to provide a challenging, rigorous education for them. But we want to provide access to students who can also meet that same rigor and those same challenges. But they may need help leveling the field by giving them some background that they didn't get in high school. So that means that even though Austin Peay is one of the most affordable in the state, our tuition and fees this fall are still the second lowest in the state. We are meeting the needs of some people who could not afford and cannot afford increasing prices in higher ed. So I'm going to ask you to think about how we can turn this upside down. Is there some innovation at Austin Peay that would allow us to change the funding model Because at some point in the United States, it's going to have to change. And we will either be lagging someone else who had the great idea, or it'll be our great idea. And so I'm going to ask you to be thinking about that. Put your business caps on, and let's see if we can figure out a way to lessen the financial burden, or at least not to increase the financial burden on the students who really deserve an opportunity to get an education. Are there any comments at this point before I conclude? I've got a few more things to say. Okay, thank you. So in spite of the information I just shared, I have not revised our targets for enrollment at Austin Peay, even though the pipeline is shrinking, even though that some other people are not growing, because I know why we set the targets. And this is where I really wanted to center my remarks. Those targets of 13,000 and 15,000 were not just some numbers I pulled out of my head thinking, oh, we could do more if we had 13 or 15. That wasn't the point. Those targets were established after an analysis of our student population that revealed who was not here, who was missing. Historically, we've had a fairly low number of graduate students, and we've talked about that before. Graduate students are really important because a lot of times the graduate students help the faculty with their research. They are a lot of programs that establish the reputation of the university. They allow those research dollars to come in that Dr. Brooks was talking about this morning. You can do some things with graduate schools that you cannot do with purely undergraduate. We had 854 graduate students when I started, and now we have more than 1,000. So we're building that number up as we should. The other group of students missing was the international population. It's a pretty challenging time right now to recruit international students, but we weren't recruiting international students just to grow. We were recruiting them because of a lot of people who come to Austin Peay for classes who can never travel. I feel pretty certain that everybody sitting in this table has been able to travel the world. But a lot of our students have not traveled out of the state, or if they have, it's to Kentucky, which is 10 miles from here. Kentucky's good, but 10 miles from here. So when we're talking about exposure to a global society and a global economy and a global geopolitical system, it's really important that our students get to meet the people that you already know. They need to meet people who are not like them. And so if we can't send them all, I'd love to have a program where we send every kid to a study abroad experience, but we can't afford it. But we can bring students to our campus and let them interact with the students that we have, and let them also learn about what a wonderful country the United States is, and how wonderful our state is, and how wonderful Clarksville is, and how we value our military. Let's tell the story that we want told right here at Austin Peay, and then let them share with us and be that, I'm sorry, but let's be that Kumbaya University. Why can't we be? So I want those students here. So if you bring in the appropriate number of international and graduate students, and then get the students that we lost over a period of about 4 years, we're at 13,000 students. And so someone asked me how long I thought it would take to do that. And so the by 2020 part of the strategic plan isn't the most important piece, because I said that and I was just wrong. I said, 5 years. Well, I really didn't have any clue how tough the environment was going to be, and I didn't know what was going to happen with some visa regulations on the international students. But I also had no idea how tough it was going to be to put an infrastructure in place to build a graduate admissions office and to build an international recruitment office. So, yet again, I was wrong, but only wrong on the timeline. It's really immaterial. We need to get those people here to be the university we want to be, and I'm committed to that, and we're going to do it, and we are really doing it in an environment when other people are not making much headway. So the growth from 13,000 to 15,000 really is because of what I see in Clarksville, what I see in economic development, what I see in the revitalization of downtown, what I see in the marketing and the branding of our region. we are fast becoming that region that people are talking about, and not just for economic development, but in terms of education. I also am looking at the data that's coming out of the Clarksville-Montgomery County school system. So we are going to grow incrementally from 13,000 to 15,000 just because we can't help ourselves. And so that's kind of where we are there. We're expanding our influence outside of our county and state, and in the last 5 years have seen a more than 7% increase in students who reside outside of Montgomery County. Mr. Krause asked me about some of the things, to share some of the things that we're doing in support of students who might be more challenged than others, not having the background that some others either have academically or maybe even with some of their financial resources. This fall, we offered our first GAP scholarships. Those are offered to 30 incoming freshman students with low expected family contributions. And so you get the amount of their financial aid, get the amount they still owe, and there is a gap. So we were able to fill that gap for 30 low-income students. We'll collect data at the end of the year to see if the gift positively impacted their ability to stay in school and their engagement experience here. And our hope is that GAP scholarships will be the difference in allowing those students to attend and then finish. In addition, we offered a cohort scheduling program this year, or learning communities. That's so that we have students coming in who may not have friends here already, and you put several of those students together. You have them take, the same math, the same English, the same history, so that they get a network and a support network while they're in school. And that is shown to aid retention. Also, we began offering a service called tutor.com, which is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week tutoring service that is free to all of our students. We have an on-the-ground, excellent tutoring program here. I'm very proud of the work that our tutors do. But if the students here are like me, when I was an undergraduate, I was studying at 2 in the morning with a pot of coffee, which was not the ideal thing to do. So if the students are listening or watching the stream, please don't do that. But if you are doing that, go into tutor.com and you will have some support. But also that particular service will support our online students as well, who can't make a trip to the tutoring center, and those who don't want to deal with parking issues too. So we employ a lot of student success initiatives, and we're working on more. But we really have to see the needle move much more and much higher in a positive direction. So we're committed to improving to benefit our students and to support the state's Drive to 55 degree attainment goals. And so let me finish with this. Let me put our university in context. If we were the ordinary university in Tennessee, over the last 3 years, we would have had a 0.6% increase in headcount. But because our university is extraordinary, we have had a 4.3% increase in headcount over the last 3 years. That's 7 times the average. That's 7 times the average. Thank you to Provost Gandy and Dr. Boggs and the enrollment management team for heroic work. Now, the whole campus was involved in that, but somebody had to drive it. And when I say drive it, they drove it. That is 7 times the average. And many of our sister institutions have seen a decrease in enrollment over the same time frame. If we were the ordinary public university in the state, we would have experienced an average loss of nearly 1% in our 6-year graduation rate over the last 5 years. But because our university happens to be extraordinary, we had a 2.7% increase in our graduation rate over the last 5 years. Now, mind you, it's still way too low. It's very low. I'm not happy with it, but we're heading in the right direction. If we were an ordinary university in the state, we would have had an increase of 25% in our state appropriations over the last 5 years. But because our university is extraordinary, our state appropriations have increased by 35% in the last 5 years. Last year, we saw an 11% increase in our state appropriations. That's because our campus members have done a great job helping our university meet the targets set in the formula, which helps us do better in the formula, which helps us better serve our students, and that's the point. If we were the ordinary state university in Tennessee and had implemented statewide recommended salary increases plus faculty promotions over the last 3 years, we would have added just more than $4 million to our salary budget. But because our university is extraordinary, we added just under $10 million to salaries, almost 2.5 times what would have been expected. That can be hard for someone to look at sometime. But I want to take you back 4 years ago, a little more than 4.5 years ago, to a conversation I had with U.S. Congressman Rowe. May 6th, 2014, I'm at a restaurant in Austin, Texas, at my grandson's 3rd birthday party. And I was a finalist for this job. And Congressman Rowe called every finalist, and he asked 3 questions. I'm assuming he asked all of us the same. He said, "What do you know about athletics?" And I told him. And then he said, "Is it true you have Gerald, I shouldn't say this publicly, because you're here, I'll tell you. Yes, I did have a Tennessee end zone print above my desk when I was in Texas, and I had to fight off the University of Texas people all the time. That board has disappeared. I have the Gov's head everywhere now, everywhere. But I had a lot of experience with athletics." And he said, "What's your experience with the military?" And I said, "Well, I've been at institutions that had relationships with Fort Wainwright and Eielson Air Force Base and Barksdale Air Force Base and Shepherd Air Force Base." And so we talked about that. And then he said, "Are you aware that the faculty at Austin Peay State University are among the lowest paid in the state?" And I didn't know that. And then I came and looked at the data, and we were paying entering salaries that I had not seen since 1998. That's shameful. And it's not because of any failure of leadership. It's that we were so under-resourced, and our enrollment was declining some after 2011. So it wasn't any failure. There was just no opportunity. Well, we as a campus made a concerted effort together. And when I say together, the people whose salaries were raised are the people who took on extra, more, to serve more without us hiring additional help. If we had hired other people, we couldn't have afforded the raises. And so as I tell you that, I want you to know it's not because we're wasteful. It's because I don't ever want anybody to leave Austin Peay because we're not paying a fair wage. So those who are paying who are leaving for better salaries are leaving to go to different institutions who are not peers, or they're going to much bigger institutions. That's a different thing. That's a different opportunity. But anybody who wants a career at Austin Peay, I want that person to be able to stay here. We had some admins here who were on public assistance because we did not pay. And now we do. We have almost everybody within 10% of the market median. Most of them are within 5%. And so I'm really grateful. So I just want you to know that Austin Peay is not an ordinary university. Because of the hard work of our faculty, staff, students, we have a story that is attracting prospective students and new employees to our university. I appreciate their work, their professionalism, and their commitment to student success. And I want to give another shout out to people, not just those who are here, who are seen, but you know our other weapons that we have in our toolbox, also our tools in our toolbox. Our spouses. I'm going to give Chris is on the second row. Chris's wife, Tammy Phillips, is the one who makes banana pudding and takes it when the donors are sick. She's the one who said, "President, your box is getting a little dreary. You want me to do something with it?" Just volunteered her time. She will take food and make calls. Elliot's not here, but I'm going to brag on him. I married a saint. Most people tell me that. Thank you very much. But he loves Austin Peay and benefits from it. And I just talk about Elliot and Chris's wife, Tammy. But there are many of us whose spouses and children, the coaches' spouses, have teams. We're talking teams over to their houses around their kids all the time. So when we talk about the Austin Peay family, we're talking about all of us. We are all in. And I appreciate them all and their commitment to our students. I appreciate you and your commitment to students, because all of us together really make Austin Peay extraordinary. Thank you.
I don't know how to follow that. before we close out, is there any commentary by any of the other board members before we finish up for the day?
Yes. And speaking of a wonderful contributor to the university, Danielle Whiteside, General Counsel and Secretary to the board, so if you look at Danielle and my assistant, Joanne Shepard, who literally, if she ever retires, that will be my last day on campus. and McCartney Andrews and my team do such a great work. And we're really excited to have a new gov joining our family sometime around December. It depends on how long Danielle can keep him waiting through the board. But after December, Danielle will be on parental leave, and we're really excited about that. And in the meantime, as we go through this fall, McCartney Andrews, who is the administrative specialist at the table there, will take over the duties as the interim secretary to the board. And so if we can keep Danielle with us through the December meeting, then McCartney will help her, and then McCartney will take over the responsibilities for the March meeting. If not, you'll see McCartney a lot. But if you have questions, anything that you would typically send to the board secretary, send those to Danielle now, but then I'll let you know at an appropriate time to transfer those questions to McCartney. And congratulations to the Whiteside family. Yes. We're excited.
Thank you very much, Dr. White. I'm always impressed by and look forward to your comments at the end of the meetings. And I've said to you before, too, that I think, and I speak for the board with this, that the campus spotlights every meeting are just terrific, and they really help give us an insight to how the university runs and all the various aspects of the university that otherwise we would have no idea. So thank you for those. And I've kidded you before, and I'll finish with this, that with respect to our generals in the room and not in the room, you're a little Trump-like in a very small way, in that you like to surround yourself with generals, and I think that's a great thing. So. Well done.
Thank you.
I'm not sure.
I don't think she used quite as many eyes.
So as a reminder, our next regularly scheduled meeting will take place November 29 and 30, 2018. With that, I move that the meeting adjourn. Can I hear a second? It's moved and seconded, the meeting adjourn. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The meeting is adjourned. Let's go, Pete.
That's right.